Hi, I'm Chantra Powell, and I'm the Proven Not Perfect podcast host and a best-selling author on Amazon. Do any of these words call out to you? Drive, ambition, doing, leading, creating. These words call many of us, and sometimes to heroic impact. This is all good until we forget about our own self, and our own self needs mainly care. My Village of All-Stars, they not only command position, but they command influence. Well, there's always a backstory. I'm myself, Chantra Powell. I've had to put myself on the sideline a few times, but I'm still in the game. I'm staying in the game. The only thing different about me is that I'm proven not perfect. Enjoy.
Wait, this is not my coffee.
That's a perfect way to start. You get what I'm saying? You are so on brand with not perfect. When the cameras start rolling, you're like, that's not my coffee. That's like something else.
I don't know what that was.
Well, I'm loving that mug for sure. Bo, first of all, I have to say just a hearty thank you to you for agreeing to spend some time in this community with Proven Not Perfect. I don't know if you know much about, and I'll share a little bit, because I think it might be really good stage setting for us. But before I set that, I have to say, you are the first conversation that I am having with someone that I honestly have not been rocking with or rocked with, you know, in and around leadership, experiences, whatever, deals, business, whatever. You grabbed me a year ago, almost to today, when I was randomly flipping through podcast and seeking something that just kind of caught me different. And I came across this one called Second Life. And
oh yeah, that was a fun one.
Yes. So I came across that. And then she's talking about, today she's talking about Shepherd, and she mentioned Detroit in her little sound clip, and she mentioned businesswoman sort of starting in the car industry. And I was drawn to so much of what she said around you, including this Black woman that has blazed her trail to this place where now she is anchored in, co-founded in her business and all the things. Girl, it grabbed me. And so here's the punchline. So I was like, okay, what are the odds that I would randomly slide in her DM and be like, hey, like I am kind of answering the call to talk to people in a podcast. And to this point, it's been me and my crew, but I want to talk to you. And you said, send me a note. And I did. And lives. And
yeah, I lost the note.
It got lost. But honestly, life's but God. I'm just going to say that. And I truly believe it, because when I sent the note, while it was something to put out there as a sticky note, it wasn't time. It wasn't time for a whole host of reasons that I will not get into, but it just wasn't time. And then I don't know how, but it clicked. Something crossed my screen randomly on IG. And I was like, Bo, I remember her. Da-da-da. And I send you the note and you're like, sure, let's do it. And so I want to thank you, first of all, for trusting me to hold space and for doing this. So who is Bo? So now that I have this grand sort of like introduction, tell us, who is Bo? Who is Bo Shepherd? Your words.
Oh God, Bo Shepherd, my words. Well, first of all, I'm also someone who believes in divine timing and that everything happens for a reason. So I'm glad it's not in my DMs. I'm glad it didn't work out the first time, but grateful that we're here today because we are supposed to be having this conversation. But Bo Shepherd, I am kind of all over the place. I always like to start saying that I'm like a true Gemini in a sense of Why
is everyone in my life a Gemini? You just literally made me scream. I could just go down. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I love an adventure. And I think when it comes to what I do, personal, business, all aspects of my life. I love to live life with the fullest. I love to push myself in different ways. And it's scary at times and it's stressful at times, but I think I kind of thrive off of like the unknown and kind of figuring it out. And I think that's what's kind of led me to where I am today. Because where I started, again, going back to I'm originally from New York and New Jersey. I moved to Detroit to be in the automotive industry. So I graduated from college for creative studies. And I was
And
an
you
interior
can't glide
designer.
past that because
I know,
that is such,
I do glide past it sometimes.
you do, but you can't because
Yeah.
what struck me, and I believe really hits home with a lot of people that I believe like us wear many hats and we're driven for success, and we have foundational expectations of ourselves. Sometimes there's that dance between the drive for success in a business lane and the drive for freedom creatively. And what hit me as I listened to your first podcast was very similar to that statement, right? Where clearly there was this foundational perspective of who you wanted to be, so much so you were articulate about it, you knew your passion, and you go into the most corporate of the corporates.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start there.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to start, honestly, because I feel like going back to like gliding through my like corporate past is because I felt like I wasn't my authentic self. And I feel like that is something that I have been extremely hyper focused on is being present, representing myself, and just being honest.
I love it.
And, being in corporate, being at GM,
Oh, girl, like that's not
like,
even that's not a glide. That is such a great statement. The authenticity that comes with acknowledging that sometimes things in our past are exactly where they were supposed to be in our past, but
mhm.
who we've become is authentically who we are right now. And so sometimes it's easy to glide past that. But anyway, well, I'll let you keep going.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that I'm spitting some knowledge right now, some gold, but because sometimes I'm just like, huh? Um, no, and it's one of those things where, I do have to kind of like remind myself that, all the experiences I had when I was in corporate are things that have or were building blocks, to and stepping stones for me to be who I am right now. But also it's like I still want to inspire, especially like Black women who are passionate about car design to go into that field. And sometimes I'm a little worried that like the things that I say from my past experiences, like especially the bad parts,
Yes.
will kind of hinder that passion. And that's like not what I want to do.
I
I've
so get you there, girl. I so
yeah,
get
I
you.
was I was the third African American female ever in the corporation of General Motors as an interior
Come
designer. I
on.
mean, of course, there's Black women in engineering,
Sure.
and in other aspects of the corporate, but as an interior designer. And the second
Wow.
was my director, Crystal Wyndham, who still works there, still being a boss.
Wow.
Um, and it just
That's
there was
incredible. Wait a minute.
yeah,
It's a titan in business. It's one of the oldest institutions, very similar, my start in insurance risk and then GE for a lot of years. These are titans, right? And you're telling me that was it 2017?
2017 is when I left. I was there. Yeah, I was there from 2014. Oh my God, math. You know what I mean?
Yes.
2013,
Yes.
2012, whatever. I was there for 5 years.
Yes. So you were there though. It was in the recent past. Like it's in the last decade that,
Yeah,
wow, that's incredible.
yeah.
Why do you think there was a resistance before you? And sometimes the resistance isn't because people consciously know that there is a resistance. Sometimes it's sort of a subconscious um, bias around who is right for that position or that role. And I think of interior design. I think of design in general. I think of that as such a customer forward experience role that for a person of color to have been a woman of color, a black woman to have been sort of denied of that position. I can't imagine no one ever wanted that before, just a minute ago.
You know what? It's pretty simple in the sense that when it comes to corporations who, you know, like GM, who have been around for decades,
Yeah.
right? Right?
Yes.
And it's especially male dominated. They're stuck in their ways. And I feel like even women, I can't say that the men are the only ones who are, this is how things go. This is how you should look. This is how you should dress. This is how you should speak. The women who are also in those roles who have, it's like they almost like absorb that best practice. Because trust
It
me,
had to.
I've had women, when I was a GM, it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't wear this. Like, I had a conversation about my hair the first time in my life, I had a conversation about my natural hair
Yep. Yep.
when I cut it really, really short, and they said, don't do it because it is not appropriate for this position.
Mhm.
Same thing with my tattoos. I mainly started getting tattoos on my legs to cover it. And, the men that had tattoos are more the sculptors, but for interior designer, we didn't have tattoos. And yeah, it's like I felt like I was constantly being treated differently in a sense of, you know, I feel like I just didn't have the support. And it kind of got to the point where I just was so unhappy. And I'm like, okay, something needs to change. And I felt kind of terrible leaving. There was a part of me where I felt relieved when I left, but I also felt so much guilt because I wasn't able.
Responsibility.
Yeah, it's like I want to be able to create change and
Yeah.
I want to be able to lead and guide the next group of women. And hopefully there's one or two Black women in that group,
Yeah.
of how to navigate this system. And I had to be selfish and I had to be like, all right, I'm out. But I'm hoping that these conversations that I have now in 2025 will also still kind of stem back to me being that shining light of hope where it's like it sucks, but also my experience at GM had some really great moments.
Amen. I well
Yeah.
said. And I love that you have reconciled the bigness of it, right? Because I think it's too easy to have our experiences that aren't our best look back experiences on the surface. But when we
Mhm.
unpack them, inevitably, if you believe that you are where you're meant to be, when you're meant to be there, they're all building blocks to who you're becoming. And so I'd love to talk a little bit about who you've become. So you essentially had a good idea while you were still working in corporate as you're living in Detroit and you are noticing something going on. Tell us a little bit about what you noticed and how that started to take hold in your heart.
Yeah, well, it's one thing being in Detroit, and I don't know if you've been to Detroit before, have you?
I have, yes, for
Okay, cool.
business
Well, a
and
lot
fun. but
nice.
but
Well,
when
a
I
lot of
went
people tell me.
last, but I'll tell you when I went last though, it was not, it was pre this resurgence in the last
Mhm.
5 years. It was very, so I was with Johnson Controls in the automotive side on the power
Okay, so you
side.
know the
So
vibe.
I've been in Detroit for the auto show and all the things. When I was there last though, I would say the town just was sad. Girl was
Mhm.
sad.
What year was this?
This was in 2008.
Okay, that's
2007, 2008.
so I moved to Detroit in 2008. So I know what you're talking about. No street lights. It was,
Seedy, seedy. It felt like a big casino
yeah,
almost. Mhm.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, so kind of it's funny that you say that because for me though, when I moved to Detroit, my eyes really opened in a sense of, growing up on the East Coast, being in a thriving, hustling, bustle city to literally just like moving into the hood. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where I'd never seen architecture, the rich architecture. I mean, I can see the fact that the city was built with like no expense. You know what I mean? Like sense of,
Mm.
the materials that were used. So I feel like that kind of piqued
The
my interest where I'm
bones,
just like,
the bones
yeah,
were,
you
were,
can see it.
yeah,
You
I
can
would
see
agree
it
with
through the
that.
decay. For sure. For sure.
And you saw you knew the history, right? So being a black woman,
Well, I was learning the
oh,
history.
you
I
were,
knew
okay.
nothing really about Detroit besides the automotive industry.
Oh,
But it's like one of those things. So like so when I was going to school, me and my dad hopped in the car and drove to Michigan so we can check out college of career studies. And we probably rolled in at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like I said, everything's pitch black. There's no street lights. And I just got this overwhelming like sensation of just like, what is this place? Because it's a kind of like a ghost town. It's like,
it was a
later
ghost
on
town.
in my college career, we could say Detroit's like the land of no rules. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But I just had this like overwhelming gravitational pull to this place does have some magic to it. It's just I got to figure out what that magic was. And later on, it's the people, it's the architecture, it's the legacy of the city. It's present in so many different ways. And my favorite thing to say to people, especially when they're coming to Detroit, if they haven't been to Detroit, is you have to come here with no expectations, full open arms, because once you embrace Detroit, it will embrace you back.
Mm.
And honestly, from 2008 to 2000, like 14
Mhm.
were, I mean, probably the best years I've had in Detroit. Things are great
Wow.
now, but I don't know. I think it's just growing with the city. Like I said, with this
But
resurgence,
you saw the
yeah,
art, you saw the possibility though.
I saw the possibility.
Because
Yeah.
I think I have some of the most special people in my life were born and raised in Detroit. And they have a soul like no other. They have a historical reference and balance like no other. That being said, I think everybody recognizes that there was that divot, there was that pivot where even the people that were from there were like, we got to get this back. We got to figure this out. There's a culture that's lost here because of some really bad decisions of leaders and all the things, right? Um,
Yeah.
but for you to come in with that fresh viewpoint and to see this as almost a canvas, right? I think that speaks volumes to just your sensitivity as a creative.
Yeah, for sure. And that's honestly kind of how our brand Woodward Throwbacks started. So, you know, of course I was still working corporate. But my partner and I, we were friends. We weren't dating yet. We loved exploring the city through a bicycle. And so, Detroit's a massive space. You know what I mean? And so it's like exploring different neighborhoods and just kind of being like I think it's one of those things where you just have to kind of be present with like what's going on because I feel like downtown is definitely like a little bubble of like oh there's things happening but again Detroit is just so vast so it's like you have to be in tune with like it entirely. And back in 2014, we noticed a lot of illegal dumping where
Yeah.
if people just like discard materials, people who are abandoning their homes, contractors not doing the right things. Like I said, there was just like cabinets, doors, etc. And my dad is in construction, so like I've had my fair share of like being in home renovations, which actually in 2008, me and my dad renovated our first house together.
Wow.
Um, and he's West Indian. I'm West Indian. So like he's very scrappy in the sense of like, figuring things out
Yeah.
and then repurposing. And I felt like for me, since I am so gravitated to texture and patina and things that are a little bit odd, um, we started gathering these materials just to really build furniture for our homes. Like that would be a really cool shelf, or we can turn this and make this a really cool chair for our apartment. And then one thing led to another where my partner was just like, we should make this like a brand. Like he's the one that really spearheaded the
Wow.
business part of it because I had my job, but this was a creative outlet for me.
Mhm.
And then one thing led to another, and it was just this. the snowball effect of, all right, home decor, furniture. And now if we're, fast forwarding to 2024, 2025, we've done a decent amount of real estate development. I'm currently in our 4,000 square foot warehouse that we have been transforming into our home.
It's amazing.
Um, and then we also got published. We wrote a book called Throwbacks Home Interiors, which I'm
Yes.
super proud of.
Oh
I
my
need to
God.
promote it better on Instagram. I
Yeah,
did
and
what,
we're gonna talk about that though, because I want,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's one of those things where it's so funny how, and this kind of goes back to the whole corporate thing where as much as being a car designer was my passion, that's all I wanted to be. It's all I wanted to do. It's funny how the creative side of me, the Gemini side of me, who's just like, I can't do one thing, I got to do more. I felt like my creative spirit was being so put in a little box
Yeah.
where if I stayed in that box, all these other things like writing a book and doing real estate development and actually I need to post this today, but I'm officially a Ford ambassador. So
What?
yes, yeah. So they gave me like an F-150, and it's one of those things where it's like
That's so
about GM a
awesome.
lot. Yeah, it's like I get to collaborate with different brands, and it's so exciting that I just have so much opportunity to just be creative on different aspects of art in life instead of just doing one thing.
Mm.
And that's just not me.
There's such a clarity that comes with that, right? How did you get to a place where with all the structure around you and the normal decisions, right, that you felt confident stepping out from your corporate and leaning into your business self? I would love for you to tease that out because you have a lot of people that, you know, will listen to this and they'll say, well, I hear that story all the time where you feel stuck and you want to escape and you want to get out, but no one has really walked me through the ups and downs of actually doing that, right? Because it sounds very scary to
It
someone on
is
the
scary.
other end of that. Okay, so keep it 100. Like it is scary. Like
Yeah, yeah. Trust me, I only keep it 100. And I'm gonna say
this
this.
is why I'm drawn to you. And who knew? My spirit knew you were a Gemini because I'm gonna tell you when I tell you offline the surrounding me of Geminis.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
a
that.
Libra.
Oh, I love that. We go really well together. I actually have a lot of Libra friends.
Mhm. Same.
um, so okay, I'm gonna start off with this for all the people who are listening. There is no rule book. There is absolutely no rule book when it comes to changing your career or making that leap of faith. I feel like you have to trust your intuition, you have to trust your gut. I actually did not tell my parents that I was leaving GM. They knew that I was having problems and that I was unhappy,
Mhm.
but I called them when my badge was returned. I was in my car and I was driving like, holy shit, I just fucking quit GM. Sorry. Massive potty mouth. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And it's one of those things too, where like, yeah, of course I spoke to my partner. We're talking about like our financial future and making things work. And it's one of those things where for me at least, I'm telling my experience because my experience is not going to be your experience,
That's right.
is we had to sacrifice a lot. We own a home in Courtown at that point, and we actually Airbnb'd it. We literally Airbnb'd our house and moved into our workshop. So we
You
had
got
bought a total.
creative, girl.
Oh, yeah, because I'm just like, something's got to change. And in
Yes.
order to make that change, I need to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I think that there's like this like thing where, oh, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, I'm gonna follow my dream, but it's like I have to financially have everything together.
Mm-mm.
That is a dream. You know what I mean? And it
True.
takes a lot of work. And again, I always say that little bit of fear, that little bit of anxiety. Like, I don't want you to be like night sweats.
Right.
I've had the night sweats. I've had the bursting out of my bed, like shaking anxiety. It happens, you know what I mean?
Does. It does. I love
But you
that you're
should,
sharing that because people
yeah,
glamorize this. Look, you could look at any magazine, any podcast, any conversation. Click the button. Everybody starts with the glamour of the whole thing. Oh yeah, it was
yeah,
hard and da da da. But who actually says no? Seriously, be sure you're sure, because there are those
yes.
moments where you will be like, I legit don't know where that resource is going to come from.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Love it.
And yeah, we lived in our shop for a year, an entire year just to kind of work things out and kind of figure out what our next moves were. And, you know, as much as it was exciting, we made it exciting. I hope I never get put in that position ever again that I have to move into my workshop because been there, done that.
Yep.
Um, but again, though that's the type of journey that has shaped who I am today. And I'm glad to share. I'm glad to tell people that, you know, it's been a struggle. I mean, it still is a struggle. There's times where I mean, we just had a conversation last night, you know, because it's one of those things where with my industry, being in the furniture industry, it is not easy. I think especially with like the housing market and like, you know, what's going on with the tariffs,
Yes.
everything. It's just been
Oh.
it's been a hard couple of years.
Mhm.
And it's like you always have to be trying to evolve how we're going to make this through, but also remaining positive. Like we are going to get through these hurdles.
Yes.
But yeah, in transparency, it's not great. Like the housing market directly affects the furniture market. So
But I
again,
gotta flip it. I gotta because
yeah.
I honestly, so all those things are true, and I'm so grateful that you were generous in sharing that and transparent because I know that it's gonna bless somebody. But here's what I would say. It gets back to what you said. You're going to be where you're supposed to be and have the resources you're supposed to have. And what I like that you pointed out with you and your partner is that you guys sort of made this decision, you got in the scrum together, and you figured it out. And so much of life, I think, is about understanding your point and position and thinking about what resources exist. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't want to start a sermon here this afternoon, but I'll tell you that, it's in the word, right? Like the resources are plentiful. It's have you stopped, slowed down, gotten still enough to actually understand the resources that are surrounding you. And then this is a faith. And I hear you kind of talk about that too, in the sense that, you knew that there was something that was driving you to something else, and you can't deny that. And if it drives you there, I truly believe it will sustain you while you're there, as long as you're willing to keep the faith and to keep very clear an expectation that the resources will come, right? I love that. We have to talk about throwbacks now though, because you then go and you co-found this business, you started through just scrappy means, and then you get noticed by like powerhouse retail.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
So talk about that, because I think it gets back to when you're head down, following what you're drawn to do and just doing the thing and putting one foot after the other, it's all happening for you. How did
Mhm.
that happen?
You know what's crazy? It's so funny. Me and my partner joke around and we're just like, so when we got our first big account, so this is back when we are doing our home decor, right? The
Yeah.
ball openers and the signs. We got into Nordstrom's and we also got into Target. It was wild.
That's
And
insane. Like that
we
was
didn't,
when you couldn't say that. People don't just get
yeah,
to Nordstrom and Target.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I wish those are Nordstrom and Target now. Where's the money at? But it's like one of those things where did a Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
So we're working out of our garage or our house actually before we even got our first workshop. And we were joking like, man, like I wonder if we would still have gotten this account. They knew that we were working out of our garage. So that was like kind of like our like little joke. But
Okay.
I feel like that moment in time was like the beginning of our authenticity. And I think that's why we got noticed. We got noticed because we were
I
doing
just got
something.
chills, girl. Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that's kind of like if there was a lesson of the day that we had to give people who are listening, it's be authentic. We didn't just create a product line because our neighbor was creating that product line. It's like we were doing something that gave us joy,
Mhm.
that was inspiring to us. Some people love it, some people hate it. Nordstrom
Yes.
loves it, but it's like we were representing ourselves. We were representing the city. The city of Detroit, like I said, has been our biggest inspiration. And I think if you are really passionate and you believe in what you're doing, people will see it. But if you're just trying to create a brand to make a little quick cash, you're gonna lose that steam so quick, and then you're gonna be stuck in it. And I think that's like the hardest part about entrepreneurship is like you have passion comes first.
Yeah.
You might struggle.
Yes.
That is fine, but you need to believe in what you're doing.
Oof. So here you're believing, you're on Kickstarter, and then somebody
Yeah.
sees you.
So Nordstrom sees us. Yeah. They're just like, wow.
Hello, may I speak to Bo, please? That's crazy. That is so good. And
Yeah.
now you are selling, curating. Um, I'm sure you're selling around the world. I know that you're killing the game here in the.
Listen, shipping around the world is hard. I'm shipping around the country.
All right, there we go. See, I'm all
I'm
see,
shipping
and
around the
this is
country.
this is the Libra friend. I'm sure if you have one, right? Like we will
Yeah.
call your future bigger than you're just like, okay, I'm on for the ride, right? But
I mean, hey, I love that. Thank you for putting that into the universe because
yes.
I would love to be able to have a product that I can sell around the world. Right
But
now, we're just in the United
I
States.
see that because here's the thing. I think there's such a cultural significance to your brand and to the work that you do, even in growing that story from the richness of the resources and the land and the spirit and the culture in Detroit. I think that that's so deep that it has to call globally, meaning
Mhm.
as a global community, I believe we seek those things that speak to places that we may never see, but you feel like you've seen it when you touch something from there. You know, as my career would allow me to travel globally and I would see Japan and see Singapore and see Shanghai, I would pick up little pieces from each place, and there's a distinction around the pieces that come from each place. And so that's how I think about your brand, right? I think that you are just on path to create something so culturally unique and relevant in this space of North America, United States, that will call to places foreign all over the world. Just stay true to that, like you just said.
Yeah. I love that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. So, what's next? What do you do next?
So this has actually been like my passion. So of course we've been doing our own real estate development since we pretty much started Woodward Throwbacks in 2014. But interior design. So my title is co-owner and head of design. So I am I have design clients. I just finished designing a full home in Ferndale, which is just outside the city, like 15 minutes. I'm doing a full home in Grosse Pointe. I have a couple kitchens, and it's one of those things where of course I want more clients. I have a few right now, and I'm putting out to the universe that the clients who understand my brand, who understand what I'm trying to do, and my ethos and my vibe, they're going to come to me. But designing people's spaces is probably the most exciting thing. I always say like, we've been building authentic furniture, but now I have the opportunity to build the authentic space in which that furniture can live in.
Mm.
And it's just been so rewarding. And I think it also again stems down to my interior design career at GM. Even though I was designing interiors for cars, if you really think about it, it's like I was creating that experience. How do you feel when you enter that vehicle?
Mm,
And now, how do you feel when you enter your home? And yeah, I
so
also am manifesting and putting energy out there. Like I love the whole idea of adaptive reuse. Again, I live in a warehouse. I'm seeking clients who have an old church or live in a firehouse or have a small brick building in a neighborhood that want me to transform it into a space that feels warm and inviting, but funky and just true to them. Because at the end of the day, I think when it comes to interior design, it's a collaborative effort. So I'm not trying to just be like, I'm just gonna design the most craziest shit because I wanted to be in Domino magazine or 80. It's like I want to design a space that reflects your personality and how you want to, just live your life. Um, so that's what's new. The interior design is something that I really just want to grow. Right now, it's just me. And I'm kind of at the cusp of I have enough work. I have enough work that I like need someone,
yes.
but I don't have enough work that I can afford someone. That is where I am in my interior design career. And it's a constant battle because sometimes I feel like I'm not putting my all into, some of my deliverables, but it's like I'm just one person and with a lot of
That's great.
ideas.
I think you nailed it when you talk to this community because I know the people that um, enjoy this conversation, these podcasts, like I said, women who wear many hats, who are driven for success. Um, we take ourselves seriously to know that we can become what we see, but we're also humble and appreciate that we fall short and we have things that we need to learn. And we're also generous to share. And I think that that's really honest and pure, what you just said, right? You know, it'll come. It will come.
Yeah, well,
I see a TV show. Girl, look, there's so much. Maybe I need to go into representation. I don't know, but
I mean, I did do a TV show. You know what's funny?
okay,
Uh,
I missed the TV show. You did a TV
okay,
show?
so everyone, yeah, so on this warehouse, so we did a one episode with the Magnolia Network.
You did?
The series is called In with the Old. We
This
are,
is
oh my God,
Joanna and Chip's network.
yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
my best friends,
Oh,
Joanna and
really?
Chip.
Tell my son what's up. I
Calling
haven't met
that
this.
out too. All right, y'all. Holler.
Yeah, so our it's season 6, episode 7,
We are all
or
checking
vice
it out.
versa, because my dyslexia. No, I think it is season 6, episode 7. It's called Motor City Warehouse.
Motor City Warehouse.
Motor City Warehouse,
Okay,
in
we
with the
have to
old.
also check that out.
Yeah, and I keep telling people it's like if you don't have Discovery, that's where it's on. You can actually watch it on YouTube under the Magnolia Network's YouTube channel. And I think it's like $1.99, or you can get like the HG for like $2.99 if you don't want to get the subscription.
Big spender, 2.99. There you go. All right,
Um,
we will
but
do.
yeah, you know what? It's funny because, my partner Kyle and we've been reached out by production companies left and right.
I would
Uh,
imagine you would.
yeah, but again, it goes back to being your authentic self. We have said no because after doing a couple sizzles, being in countless meetings, the the dialogue, the conversations end up just being so uninspiring because
Mm.
when it comes to these TV networks, they have their format, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a circle, they will squeeze that your circle into this little square box.
Mm.
And even if it doesn't fit, they will squeeze and mold you to become what they need you to become for the views.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where sometimes I look back, especially when I'm like going through like periods of like financial stress,
Mhm.
and I'm like, what if I'd said yes? Who would I be right now? Where would I be in Detroit? Would I have a home in LA, or would I move back to New York? It's one of those things where I always think about like what would be the trajectory of my career at this point if I had said yes.
Mm.
But if I had said yes, would I still be my authentic self? And it's honestly, it makes me emotional and scary because it's like I'm also just like I feel like I should be so much further in my career at the same
That's
time.
that drive. That's that drive. We all have
Yeah,
that nice little gene.
I know. So it's one of those things where it's like,
But
you
stay
know,
true because
be
here's
true.
here's what I would say. You know, it gets back to knowing your what and your why very clearly. And as a result, at any point, being really clear on the point and position that you have and the how, right? That ties to that. I talk a lot about this dynamic duo of strategic and critical thinking. And it is a dynamic duo, but it requires you constantly doing it around changes in position because you were introduced to a whole new pathway potentially in TV that did not, as you scanned, fit with the what and the why. So that wasn't the how, not then. But if it's meant at the right time, strategy and how are going to meet up very nicely, I think.
Yeah.
But you'll be more proud and more accomplished if you feel like you didn't have to lose you in the process. And I think that that's one of the things that too many of us, right, self included at points in my life, at points in my career, where I was chasing titles and not chasing my own purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And once I stopped chasing titles, titles started flooding in, right? And once I got clear on purpose, the same anxieties and I don't know, sometimes unhealthy measures, they took a back seat to me always being able to sit still and say, but does it feel like I'm on purpose? Does it feel like I fit?
Yeah.
Um, and then the other piece that I would just share that a mentor of mine, one of my favorites from back in the day, he just said, you know, you've got to really get clear on the fact that it's a marathon and not a sprint. Because earlier on, my drive for so many things was so big that everything was urgent. And now that's the whole vibe that can shift your life,
Mm-hmm.
put you on tilt, right? And you know, and then you have to claw your way back to the other side. But I appreciate that you're really giving that some thought. And you know, I think you're just going to continue to fly. So if we get the book Throwback, um,
Throwbacks
what
home interiors.
what will we learn? What will we do better? What will it inspire us? How will it inspire us? I know for me, I love books like that as kind of inspiration guides. And the way you've laid it out is truly beautiful to be able to just kind of see different spaces. And I use it
Mm-hmm.
sort of as a creative catalyst, if you will. And my mind is so different than most in that I will pull up the most unexpected thing for creative influence on, you know, a deal that I'm designing, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you kind of already said it. It is an inspirational guide. So Throwbacks Home Interiors, which if I can add, is a project I'm really proud of because, you know, this book was actually written from an entire Detroit cast, from our ghostwriter to the homeowners that we showcase, even to our photographers. When we first started working with Clarkson Parter, you know, they were giving us like writers and photographers from Atlanta, New York, and LA, and we're like, no, this is everyone needs to be from Detroit. I wish our graphic designers were from Detroit. That was thing, like the book designers, we didn't have enough in the budget. We're like, okay, cool, use your designers. But that was definitely, if I could do something over again, I would definitely just really keep it 100% core city. Um, but yeah, it's an inspirational guide to designing with vintage antiques, found objects. It's really about creating that authentic space. And a lot of people forget that authenticity, it's whatever you love. It doesn't have to be like, oh, the most trendiest design that I'm seeing on social media. It's like, because I've seen people who are like, oh my God, I love this kitchen. And it's all white and it's like just wild. But I'm like, do you see yourself actually living in there though? You know what I mean? It's like, nah.
Right.
And it's also kind of I wouldn't even say it's a glimpse because again, we're really honest and it is literally opening the door to our brain and how it works and how we see objects and materials and spaces. And again, it's just supposed to inspire, and that's why we have so many different chapters. So we have 4 chapters within our home tours. There's 15 houses. We have modern, traditional, funky, and eclectic.
Mhm.
And I love that because again, when it comes to gravitating to things that you can identify with and what you feel is authentic, it's a wide scope. And so there might be some chapters that you're just like, oh, I really love the marble in this modern kitchen. But then I love the funky chapter, which I do love the funky chapter. My one girlfriend that we featured, she had found all this antique mirror from like this building that was being, torn down. And it was just like someone had clearly thought it was cool because they took it out of the building, they put it on the side, and she like spoke to one of the demo guys and like, oh yeah, we're about to toss that, but like if you want it, go for it. And she took this antique mirror glass and she used it in the backsplash of her kitchen, which by the way, her kitchen is in the living room of the house that she renovated because she was just like, this house was completely burnt down when she bought it and everything was black and charred and crusty. And the only thing that was standing was the original fireplace that had this gorgeous yellow tile. And she was just like, I'm going to make this my kitchen because this is my favorite space in the house. So you have her stove to the left with her antique glass. Then you have this gorgeous fireplace in the center. And then to the right, she has her sink. And it's like, that's the type of shit that is so cool. And you will not see it in a cookie cutter home. And that is Throwbacks Home Interiors.
Wow. I
And
love
it
it.
is entirely.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, girl, look, a whole vibe you are. So, rapid fire before we close out.
Okay.
One place in this world that you visited that when you go there, you feel your whole body exhale.
Ooh,
Ooh, that was
Belle
bold
Isle.
even for me, girl. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna say this. I traveled quite a bit, and my favorite place in the world is literally 5 minutes from here.
Ooh.
It's called Belle Isle. It's a state park, our Detroit State Park. It's literally in between, it's an island in between Detroit and Canada. Um, I go there every morning. I didn't go this morning. My partner went with our dog. But I go almost every morning and I'll go through the woods, I'll hike, I'll run, and I always end with like a swim, especially in the summer. There's like a beach. Um, I cry there, I reflect there. And it's one of those things where I'm a really big outdoor girl. So even though I like live in the city, I thrive in the city, I also thrive just being completely alone, or with my dog, or even just like walking with a girlfriend and just being present. I think my journey and my love for Belle Isle really got strong probably 2 years ago when we moved to this area. Um, so yeah, it's my favorite. I think it's we're so blessed to have a space like Belle Isle, especially being in a major city. And I want more people to take advantage of it. And when they do, it's you feel the energy, people just hanging out, smoking, drinking, lounging, doing whatever, but they're just enjoying themselves. And I like to be around people who are enjoying themselves and just being.
Mm.
Simple as that.
Well, Miss Bo, you are truly authentically you and
Thanks.
unapologetically you. And I do think that that is the most compliment of the highest compliments. That's who we are. And when it comes through, people are called to you. And I appreciate your responsibility in that call. And I appreciate you staying anchored in your call. So, as a big sister, I'm just going to give you a big hug virtually and say that I am rooting for you and
Thank you.
I'm excited for what's to come. So, we'll be keeping in touch for sure.
Awesome. Thanks for having me and thank you for this conversation.
Oh
This
my
has been
God.
amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.